Om Bhadram Karneभिः Shrunuyama Bhadram Pashye Makshabhiryachatraः Sthairairangai Stuštuvagum Sastanubih Vyashema Devahitam Yadayuhu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om, O God, may we hear with our ears what is auspicious. O ye adorable ones, may we see with our eyes what is auspicious. May we sing praises to ye and enjoy with strong limbs and body the life allotted to us by the gods. Om, peace, peace, peace. It is not only our hatred of others that is dangerous, but also and above all, our hatred of ourselves. Particularly that hatred of ourselves which is too deep and too powerful to be consciously faced. For it is this which makes us see our own evil in others and unable to see it in ourselves. It is not only our hatred of others that is dangerous, but also, and above all, our hatred of ourselves, particularly that hatred of ourselves which is too deep and too powerful to be consciously faced. It is this which makes us see our own evil in others and unable to see it in ourselves. To have a spiritual life is to have a life that is spiritual in all its wholeness, a life in which the actions of the body are holy because of the soul, and the soul is holy because of God dwelling and acting in it. Thomas Merton. Good morning, everyone. It's happy to be here. Well, today the topic, are you familiar with anger? Do you get angry every once in a while? Is that okay? Is it bad? Let's think about it. Lately, as a monk, we live in a monastic community, but also we share our activities with lay people. And sometimes we work together towards a goal. We have different places or centers in the United States, particularly here in the US. And sometimes we are challenged by working together. Sometimes as a monk, you have to delegate or guide the work. And boy, people get upset. People get angry. They get frustrated. And sometimes it's difficult for me because they call me and they say, hey, Swami, this is happening. And I'm like, what am I supposed to do? You guys should manage this. I mean, why do you get upset? And sort of like dump all that emotion in others and upset the whole thing. And you know how it is when people get upset, they take offense and they just, I can't do this. They just drop it. Is it that easy? So I was in my, again, inability to kind of like take that feedback from our people, our devotees or, friends. I started thinking like, why? Why it seems to be so difficult? And I'm not saying that I don't get upset. I do get upset sometimes like a lot. But there is a way to navigate that emotion without affecting others. And sometimes it's not clear right away, it doesn't come to your mind right away, and you wonder, you get frustrated too, right? You get frustrated, I was like, well, I guess it is what it is. Like, people get upset and they just drop the project because what can we do about it? I can't be behind everything or monitoring everything, right? Because I have my job here in my center. Anyways, this is the story why I decided to talk about how to navigate anger. Now, there is one emotion and one emotion only. As spiritual beings that we are Sat Chit Ananda. You know what it is? It is called in what we call the Lord in Vedanta, Brahman. It is defined as Sat, existence, absolute, Chit, knowledge, awareness, absolute, and Ananda, absolute. You all know this. Now, when it comes to ourselves, there is knowledge, absolute. We might not be aware. There is awareness, there is existence, absolute. Again, there is awareness of that existence. Do you exist? Ask yourself, do you exist? Do you? So, there is existence and awareness of your existence, isn't it? You can't deny it. Now, Brahman is defined also in its nature as bliss, absolute bliss. And guess what? That's also us. Well, wait a minute. I don't seem to experience that in my life. What are you looking for in the outside world? What are you looking for in fulfilling the desires of your senses? That bliss. And when you find it, when you fulfill your desires, that spark appears in your heart. And you are in bliss. For how long? As long as it lasts. But at that particular moment, you touch your own nature, your divine nature. Now, the external object is nothing but a trigger. Do you see it? What happens to us? We go outside and live in the outside world all the time without knowing or accepting that. We are used to going outside and live this life. Very few learn to have an inner life and go within and find that fulfillment within you, that source of bliss. You want to call it happiness? Call it happiness. Total happiness. Does it make sense? I know, we have a problem. How can we go within? If we experience our life through our senses, it's so hard, so difficult. Well, that's why spiritual life. It's an invitation to go within, to find yourself, and eventually to master yourself. There is that emotion which is the essence of yourself. We call it Ananda, bliss. That is translated as love. Love is nothing but the expressed form of fullness, Ananda. You know, how do you make bread? You need different ingredients to make bread. But the main one is flour. That flour takes the name of bread, rolls, bagels. It's subject to various forms. The different names to the we represents the modification of that specific essential principle, that is the we. Similarly, love is a simple emotion which is a modification and or manifestation of Ananda, our nature. Now that Ananda, it takes different shapes. The same emotion expresses itself in the form of compassion, giving, sympathy, love. And guess what? Those are positive ones. But also, that same emotion is taking the shape of greed, anger, and so on. Do you see it? These are nothing but expressions of one single emotion. The ultimate emotion is called Ananda, bliss, joy, eternal joy, love, which is why we say when we have a relationship with God and we learn to love ourselves and fall in love with God, we say we love God, for the fortunate ones. An expressed form of Ananda is also the Lord. An expressed form of Ananda, when you deposit or superimpose that Ananda upon something, you can fall in love with many things. Those many things can be shaped in the form of God. How do you shape God? Just as you shape any other object. You put in that object a meaning. When it comes to God, you superimpose that principle upon one single object with a word, vacuum. It's called God. And you also give it a form, a shape, symbols. When you see them, amen. So that emotion also takes the place or shape or form of that we call God, that principle. Now, it is said that the wise man is free from anger. Wow, is it possible? But you have to be a wise person. How can you become a wise person? Anger is nothing but another form of that emotion, the ultimate emotion, in the form of desire. And that happens to all of us. We can't live without desire. In fact, we desire all the time. We want all the time. Isn't it true? There is this desire itself that is transformed into anger. First, the desire is in a benign form, and then it gets transformed into another form, an ugly one. It's called anger. When what you want is not accomplished, when what you want is not fulfilled, when what you desire doesn't happen due to some obstruction, that very desire turns into anger, whose target is the obstruction. Is it clear? What obstructs the desire? We target it. You are the cause of my anger. And we do that all the time. And most unfortunately with our loved ones. That's how relationships get spoiled. when what you want is not accomplished due to some obstruction, that very desire turns into anger, whose target is the obstruction itself. And then comes that same ultimate emotion transformed into the shape of pain. We are in pain. And because we are in pain, we get more upset. And so it goes, and so it goes until we fall into a loop and we lose ourselves. Whatever is obstructing your desire becomes the object of your anger. It is kind of on fashion to see these documentaries on Netflix, these murderers. I don't want to talk about that, but same concept. Because the objects of a person's love becomes the object of his or her anger. A man does not kill a loving person. He kills only the obstinate, unwilling source of it. And then, say if that murder happens, this man, sometimes a woman, comes over the loving one, cries over the loving one. Why? What did I do? I used to love her. I still love her. I still love him. Yet, what have I done? Thus, when a person becomes an obstruction of your desire, that same person becomes the object of your anger. Does it make sense? I put an extreme example so that it hits home. Dhyayanto vishayan pumsaha sangaste shrupajayate sangat sanjayate kamaha kamat kramo kamat krodho vijayate. Excuse me. Krodhat bhavati sammoha smritibit brahmaha smritibit brahmshat buddhinashat pranashyati. It's been a while. I haven't chanted these verses for a long time. What is the meaning? Verses 62 and 63, chapter number 2. In a person who dwells upon objects, any one of us, an attachment is born. With reference to that object. From that attachment, desire is born. We want it. We become obsessed with it. Desire. I want to experience that bliss, to own it. From desire, anger is born. When does it happen? Frustration. The obstruction is in between. Then we become angry. From anger comes delusion. We lose ourselves. From delusion comes the loss of memory. We don't remember what we learned in the past. We don't remember our values. We compromise our values. We compromise what is right. And that's how we lose ourselves. Every desired object has its own peculiarities and desirable attributes. The object is not desired for itself. It is desired because it is seen. It is seen as desirable. Not every desire can be fulfilled. I wish it was that easy. There are many obstacles that prevent the fulfillment of some desires. The problem comes when the desires are not fulfilled and you become angry. The desire itself turns into krodha, anger. Thus, desire is the cause of anger. In the words of Krishna, he says, anger is born of desire. It's not the person. It's not the person you put the blame upon, the cause of your frustration. It is the desire itself that causes you pain. You superimpose that pain and you make somebody responsible. Is that cool? That starts and ends in you. You have a problem. That person, the situation, the circumstances was a trigger. Now, sometimes in your spiritual life, as you practice, this becomes something spontaneous. You don't react. But most of the time we react. And we get angry. And we say bad things, bad words. And it becomes a spiral. One thing leads to another. And guess what? It all started with love. That ultimate emotion, which is your own nature. It is because of that we cannot say that what we call the Lord or God or the ultimate reality is not present in that emotion. You may call it bad, but the source, cause of that ultimate emotion is the nature of Ishvara itself. Do you see it? You cannot experience any object unless you are present. What I mean by you, I don't mean you, the you that you think you are. I mean your essence, your awareness, your consciousness, your divine being, your self, capital self. Because he, let's just say, call it he, is present, everything happens. Even in your emotions. Do you see it? I know it sounds a little deep. Thus, desire is the cause for anger. The nature of anger is always towards the obstruction to the fulfillment of your desire. If between you and the object that you desire there is an obstruction, that obstruction is the target of your anger. The desire itself is deflected, kind of like pointed to this obstruction. The point here is not to avoid anger. It's not to avoid anger. The moment you're upset, period. If you want to control it, what happens to you? Start fuming off, and then boom, you explode. Some people think that, I can't get upset again. It's not that. That's an emotion. You have to let it go. It is healthy to let it go. When you don't do that, what happens to you? You swallow, swallow, swallow. You, instead of expanding, you start shrinking because you don't want to explode. But the explosion already happened within you. Rather, you have to remove the sting from your desire, for which a proper attitude is very important. How do you deal with that anger? That everything should happen as you want is not a realistic expectation. You can work and try your best for whatever you want. That much you have control upon. Whatever you want, you have to work hard for it. You did your best, that much you can do. The rest is not up to you. You are not in control. I was reading to the news the other day. Did you hear what happened in England airport?
Oh yeah, the power outage.
The power outage. So it has spoiled so many plans, people's plans, weddings, birthdays, and it goes on. Imagine the frustration. So you try hard, you plan everything, but then the outage happens. Now they want to blame it on the Russians. I don't know.
Just for a day, I think it was just.
Yeah, catastrophic. Again, somebody needs to be blamed, or responsible for it. Such an expectation is due to our attachment and desire, which has to be neutralized and be free of anger. Now, can we control anger? And what does controlling anger mean? Anger is inside, and you are simply simmering until suddenly one day it erupts like a volcano. Once anger is out there, what happens? You know very well. You lose discrimination. You forget what you've learned. You forget yourself. You forget your values that shapes you as a human being. In this anger situation, you're not going to take the time to consider what is good or bad. When you are there, that's it. What you do or say takes place of its own accord and depends entirely upon your past. How is that? Because we are not aware of this cause and effect relationship since the beginning in our lives. We get frustrated and we get angry, and we start this process from a very early age. It's just we are not adults and we can't see what we are doing. We simply get upset, get angry, and we superimpose that upon that obstruction, my parents, my mom, my dad, or anything, my best friend. Now that begets pain, and you carry that pain, and sometimes it's very deep throughout your whole life. And the moment you get upset, the moment you connect with that pain source, and what happens, we all know. That's why we say in Vedanta that everything has a cause. And in our case, when it comes to anger, it also comes to the experience in our childhood. It comes down to what we experience in our childhood. Now, there is no question of controlling this at this point. The best thing we can do is let that go, but don't hurt others. Don't destroy, because you need to fume off. There is a person who is very dear to me. She's a nun. She comes to Trabuco on Sundays, and he's a very elderly person. And she keeps saying, it's just love. She keeps saying that, it's just love. And I say, yeah, it's just love. Because it is. All these emotional disruptions that we have, volcanoes, the root cause of it is just love. Just we don't know it. Love is the only emotion, and it expresses itself in what we call Isha, the Lord. Because the Lord, according to the Upanishads, is present everywhere. We are surrounded by the Lord. We are unable to see it. In this world of duality, all we experience is that, duality, separation. But the scriptures say we need the right eyes to see that the Lord is all-pervading, is in everything, is all around us. In fact, we are that itself. We just don't know it. People want to have a special mind to think of God. When you think of an object, a tree, for example, no other object is in your mind. When you think of an apple, you and the apple are one. Is that right? The apple carries a meaning. When you think of God, that apple is transformed into God with its meaning. Do you see it? It's all in our minds. Form and meaning. Verb, the word, and meaning, including God. When you think of God, no other object is in your mind. When you think of an orange, God is replaced by the orange. When we think of God, our mind is everywhere because God represents that principle that is all-pervading. And as much as we can expand like this, we can shrink like that. When we think of a single object, you call it an orange. We complicated it. Something that it should be very clear to us. We just are unable to understand how it works. We reduce God to an entity, an object, bound by time and space, and our own objectivity. By its own nature, it becomes one of the many things of the world. This concept is extremely important to understand. It can really help us in our daily life. We have to contemplate upon this again and again. Any emotion, therefore, is coming from the same source. Just like objects, so our emotions. Anger is an expression of pain. That pain that's been stored within ourselves. We talked about kama and krodha, desire and attachment. It all comes down to an unfulfilled desire. And out of that comes pain. Doesn't matter what the desire is. It leaves us with pain. As a child, this pain is stored in our unconscious mind. It is covered. But as we grow up, it begins to control our entire mind. This pain, always present, being a part of us, is being triggered by external obstructions. And anytime we have an obstruction, we superimpose that anger on them. I said them because it's mostly, people. To trigger that anger, for that anger to take place, you require something or somebody from the outside. That somebody else happens to be, most of the time, an object of your love. Could be a friend, could be a family member, your partner, husband and wife. And this is the triggering person. That person can never cause anger in you. That obstruction is not the anger, the root cause of your anger. The root cause of your anger is not the obstruction or the person. It comes from a source of pain that is deep within you. And when it comes out, you want to find somebody responsible for it. And you make a mess. Nobody can cause anger to you. Nobody has the capacity to cause anger to you. If you find that that person is unreasonable, you can say that you are unreasonable. Because you are projecting that on that person. And guess what? You can change that. You suddenly can become reasonable. that somebody is only present at bottom. At that particular moment, you find yourself vulnerable. And you have to understand and acknowledge that about yourself. I'm feeling emotional. I'm not quite right. I'm vulnerable. So you have to stay alert. Everyone is vulnerable in some areas, and anger happens because of that inner pain. And we should recognize that in the external world, nobody is responsible for that anger. The external world, whatever situation, circumstances, or people, is just a helping hand, but it doesn't have the capacity to cause anger in you. Anger is an emotion born of our own inner pain. That pain manifests in the form of anger. In our scriptures, as I quoted before from the Bhagavad Gita, we recognize this. First, in the form of desire that turns into pain because it wasn't fulfilled, and the unfulfilled desire turns into anger. That anger is like a cloth, another modification of pain. That's why when we act out, in this anger that we are experiencing, we are acting under that spell of anger, we become sad. In anger, we scream, we shout, do many things, say many things, but after that, we are sad. Even if you don't regret the action, there is sadness coming from nowhere. Is it true? Do you recognize that? So if you understand this, we have to admit that anger is not bad. It's not a bad thing. It's another manifestation of the ultimate emotion that's been transformed, taking a different shape, and has caused pain. When we become aware of it, we can work on the cause, root cause. I know you say, well, I'm not going to ask you or, advise you to find a shrink or psychologist to therapy, but it is related. In Vedanta, we have to understand our minds and the root cause of our emotional problems. When you discover the root cause, you can shake hands with it and release, let go, accept it. It was part of the past. There is this order we call the Lord. The Lord manifests in the form of a law. The law that harmonizes everything. The law of causation, for example. Now, when these experiences happen, when I tend to put the blame or make somebody responsible, that obstruction takes the shape of a person. That's not giving you the okay to victimize or be the cause of your anger. In Vedanta, we say and keep saying, hurt nobody. The moment you hurt somebody, you are hurting yourself. You cannot make somebody a victim, anybody, because of your anger. You do have a legitimate emotion, though. There is nothing wrong in being angry, nothing wrong in experiencing these bad, so-called bad emotions. Sometimes in our religions, we are encouraged to don't see that. But we all carry these emotions, whether we like it or not. And it's okay to admit them, to acknowledge them, and work with them. That tells you that there is pain, and the pain needs to go. Without disrupting the harmony of your community, without making anybody a victim, without hurting anybody. Everything becomes wrong when you make somebody responsible, the trigger responsible. When you victimize somebody, even if somebody is someone that of your love, somebody you love, you have no right to do that, to make somebody responsible for your pain. Everybody has certain rights, human dignity, and you have to respect that. This is what we practice in Vedanta. Hurt nobody. In hurting somebody, I hurt myself. This is the basics, or the basis of the practice of Dharma, righteousness. This is at the very core of our nature, to acknowledge that my consciousness is the same in everybody else. To become aware that the true temple of God is this human body. How do we do this then? Well, you know how it is. We need to work with ourselves. We need to be disciplined. We need to pay attention. We need to stay alert, so that we don't blame anybody for our own pain. The moment we start working with our own pain, we release ourselves from it. And you will get less and less angry. There is two practices, Dhamma and Shama. Control of the mind, control of the senses. Dhamma is self-discipline, control of the senses. You need to understand the relationship we are having with the sense objects. And you cannot afford to be deceived by the idea, the fantasy that that object will fulfill you forever. You cannot fall slaves of the sense object, which is very natural in all of us. If you do, you know what's going to happen. Frustration will come. Attachment will come. Anger will come. You will lose your memory. And then you might act out in that mindset. So we have to restrain our senses somehow and be alert where we sit upon. Just like the flea, just like the bee. The bee only sits on the honey in the flower. But what happens with the fly? We all have to become bees, and be able to be aware that we can't afford to be slaves of sense objects, because there is a law and we can't avoid it. We can't run away from it. Do you understand this? There is an inevitable law controlling everything, putting order in everything, including our minds. We can't control it, but we can understand it. We can understand how it affects our minds. We can understand what is the root cause of everything. It's called Sat Chit Ananda. That Ananda is what we are looking for in our lives, in the external objects. That Ananda, that bliss, that love. When we say, oh, I love this, I love that, it's true. It's the same emotion, and so it is anger. Why anger? Why not compassion, Swami? The reason is, if you are able to understand anger, pain, you can control all your emotions. Once you get hold of anger, all your emotions are easy. Thank you. I had to wrap it up. I had more material, but I didn't have time.
Anyone with any questions can ask Swamiji. Okay. Well.
Yes. Sorry. I thought that. Yes, go ahead. Door? When? The doors of perception, I don't know. Okay, maybe we can talk after the, and I can, yeah, that'd be better. Because if you took notes, that's probably better. Sure, I can do that. Anybody else? Sure.
Is the anger just in the mind? Are there two selves? Are there two selves, a bigger self and the smaller self? And how is that related? Like, if it's in the mind, do we use our higher self to try to understand that anger, or is it the mind that needs to understand the anger itself?
There are no two selves. There is only one self that is deceived by conceptions, by ideas that we put upon ourselves. Instead of expanding, we shrink, and we become the body. We become what we think we are, so and so, right? But that true self is not affected by it. It's just momentary, and that happens in your mind. What you need to understand is your mind, how the mind works. In order to understand your mind, you need to stay calm. You need calmness. And for calmness, what is the recipe for calmness? Religious practices. In Vedanta, we call them yogas. As simple as that. Means to achieve calmness. Call it whatever you want to call them. But you need to use those means to stay calm. Because if you don't, see what happens when you fall in love with the sense objects. We start hurting each other. In calmness, you can see the truth. You can see the reality. That's why we are advised to have a spiritual life. We are advised to practice certain disciplines. The only goal of those disciplines is to achieve calmness. Once you are calm, you can see the light. You can see what's on the bottom of the lake. Otherwise, you can't see, it's all muddy. Yes.
Is detachment the recipe for calmness?
Say it again.
Detach yourself from the desires or objects.
You
Is
see,
the recipe for calmness?
sometimes you detachment comes afterwards. First of all, you have to achieve calmness so that you can understand that you need to detach. Detachment doesn't come that easy, you know. You need to understand how you get attached. What are you looking for? What you are looking for is happiness. What you are looking for is contentment. If you understand that sense objects will give you just a temporary contentment, but also will give you addictions, because it's never enough. I mean, it's your own experience. Has it been enough? We go crazy. So the solution, the rishis, the seers of the truth is telling us, go within. Find calmness. Find that inner peace. Then you will see with clarity. Then you will find yourself face to face with your own guru. And he will guide you. Knowledge is within you. You just simply need to prepare the grounds for it. The external guru is nothing but somebody who's guiding you towards the path. But you have to figure this out by yourself. Unfortunately, you guys, we are on our own in our journey. We have to figure it out by ourselves. The only way to do it is to achieve calmness. Then everything good will come out of it. Clarity, wisdom, contentment. People will say, what happened to you? Are you happy? Oh, really? Am I? Oh, no, nothing special happened to me that I can identify as a cause of my happiness. Become something spontaneous. That's why it is so important, and we as monks encourage you to have an inner life, so that you can find that source of happiness within you. And this is for everybody. Whether you call religious, spiritual, it doesn't matter. It is our own essential true nature. Whether it's called, Christianity, Judaism, Vedanta, some people call it Hinduism. The truth is the truth. And in Vedanta, we find that answers to everything. Yes? Ah, yes. Why not? Yeah. Yes, why not? I mean, we are supposed to have an inner relationship with that our own nature, that ultimate reality we call God. Hey, God made you this way. If at all you want to make somebody responsible, blame it on him. So you can be mad at God. You can say, why? Why did you do this? You know, that is how you fume off. You have to have and develop a very intimate relationship with what we call God. But don't hurt others. Don't say, but God is also in others. Watch out. Don't play with it. Don't be too smart, if you know what I mean. Because you would hurt yourself. Yes.
You said that most of the time our anger is because we have a desire.
Yeah. Most of the time, not. It's all the time.
All the time. For example, when it's, and I'm going to put an example.
Sure.
When like somebody does something to your child, for example, another parent does something to your child, and what would be the desire there? How do you let go of that anger? You know it's painful, you know it's hurting, but at the same time, if you have that feeling that, and I'm talking like a really bad situation, how do you let go of that without saying, oh, if I forgive you and I let go of it, it was okay what we did.
No, it's never okay. If it's, hurting a child, I don't think it's okay. You can set boundaries to a child, but never hurt the child. So for every action, there is responsibility. That doesn't mean that you have to play the goody-goody. Everybody is responsible for his own actions. If it was wrong, it was wrong. And the root cause of your anger is your love for your child. That's why you react. It causes you pain. So that person needs to be responsible for what he or she did. And she needs to acknowledge that. Otherwise, we can just justify everybody. Oh, I'm getting angry. Oh, you're good. You're okay. No. What happens is sometimes we just get upset for any outside trigger that we don't seem to know why. And we just like explode. And without paying attention to the consequences, which is something that maybe you could have sat with yourself and contemplate upon what is causing you that anger. But no, every action comes with a consequence. Now, what are you going to do? Are you going to kill that person? Because that will be consequences in this life, according to the Constitution. Right? So I'm only hoping that you understand what I'm going to. Whenever you experience anger, it's because there is pain. If there is pain, because there is love. That source of love should not be a desire to possess. Your child, your kids is a source of love. And you're going to, and you feel that sense of possession until it grows enough or it becomes an adult and makes your own decisions. So you are responsible for that. You are responsible for that kid. So it's difficult to talk about all the dimensions and sources of anger in our lives, but just I'm just giving you the basics so that you can understand. If there is anger, there is desire. If there is desire, there is love. Unfulfilled desire is the root cause of pain. If there is pain, you have to analyze why. Well, maybe it goes back to your childhood. And it's okay to kind of sit with yourself and forgive. Shake hands with the past. Is there anything you can change? Your attitude, your present moment. There is nothing you can do upon the past. But you can forgive others by saying they probably didn't know anything better. Otherwise, they would have done otherwise. You can forgive ourselves. There is a lot of psychology that we have to be open to practice in Vedanta.
Okay.
Good. Well, thank you so much for giving me the opportunity. I apologize for this talk was more than an hour, but I had to, somehow. And thank you. I will close with a chant, as is customary. And I give you the translation, and then we can meet all outside. And if you have questions, Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishriyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om, that outer world is Purna, full of divine consciousness. This inner world is also Purna, full of divine consciousness. From Purna comes Purna. From fullness of divine consciousness, this world is manifested. Taking Purna from Purna, Purna indeed remains because divine consciousness is non-dual and infinite. Om, peace, peace, peace into all. Thank you.